Hey there, this is Akshay and welcome back to a new video. And in this video, we are going to understand HTTP, which is the start of backend. This is the point where you have to start your backend learning. And one more thing, this video is not just for backend enthusiasts. This video is also for the mobile developers, the web developers, the front-end developers, the full stack developers, right? Because everyone has to understand how the API calls are made, right? Because as a mobile developer, as a web developer, as a front-end developer, you make a lot of API calls and you just use packages. I know, right? You in Flutter, if you are a Flutter developer, then you would have used HTTP package or you would have used DO package and you just make the API calls and you get the response. But at the back, what is happening? What is the HTTP protocol, right? So that we have to understand in this video. And let's start with putting the topic, right? So HTTP. This we have to understand today. What is HTTP? In simple terms, I would say, in simple terms, it is a protocol. Protocol. Okay, protocol. What is it? What is a protocol? Protocol is a set of rules. It's a set of rules. Why we need rules? What happened? Why did we have to make this HTTP? Everything we are going to understand in this video, right? Okay, let's start. So what used to happen is, I'll go a little bit in the past. What used to happen is, let's say it is 1970s, right? And you purchased one personal computer. You are very happy, right? You purchased your first computer, right? It is a personal computer and not a very fancy one. It does not have any DJ lights and all, right? It is a normal computer and you are very happy, right? You are enjoying and you are very happy. What can you do on this computer? You can use a calculator, right? You can use a notepad. You can use Paint. You can play a basic game, let's say Sudoku, right? Not much, right? Only these things you can do. Why you can't do anything? Because I cannot play a multiplayer game. Yes, I cannot play a multiplayer game. I cannot access internet. I cannot open and post something on the internet. I cannot open a website, right? Nothing I can do. Why you cannot do anything? Because you are restricted to your own room. You are restricted to your own computer. You are restricted to the resources that are there in your computer. You cannot go outside. Your computer cannot make any request to outside world and then access the resources. Whenever you put something on the internet, it's not like that information is there in your computer and just you see it, right? It is fetched from someone else's computer. That someone else's computer, we know it as server, right? So we are reaching there, but first of all, let's move ahead a bit in time, right? Then some improvements happened, and what happened was, you're very happy, you had your computer. Now you started getting bored, but suddenly there was a revolution and your computer was now connected to your friend's computer, right? And how it got connected? Through wire, right? You can connect two computers or many computers in an area using wires. Okay, now you can send him some fax, some emails or something you can do, right? Some information transfer can happen, but still not a very structured way, right? So to pass information or to let communication happen between nodes, we also know these computers or the computers in the world as nodes, right? To let the communication happen, this is all, the HTTP is all for communication. To let the communication happen, we had to define some set of rules. Because let's say your computer is connected to Facebook's computer. Let's say we are moving ahead more in time, and let's say Facebook came, and then what you have to do is, you are a college student and you have to post a relationship status on Facebook. You have to create your profile on Facebook. Then yes, you have to post some data from your computer to that computer, to Facebook's computer, right? This is your computer, right? This is Facebook computer, which is sitting in Mark Zuckerberg's room, right? And this computer has all the information, right? Mark is sitting here with all the information, right? So to let this communication happen, and I'm sitting in India, let's say. Now I cannot connect a wire directly from here to there, right? To pass information, right? There has to be certain wireless mechanism or certain way of communication. That certain way of communication are called protocols, and HTTP is a famous protocol. It is the most used protocol, right? And that protocol lets the internet work, right? So this my computer now can connect with Mark Zuckerberg's computer so that I can fetch all the information about my college friends, right? This is what HTTP is, right? So HTTP is a way of, or HTTP is a set of rules that define the communication between two computers, right? From these two computers, one is known as a client computer and another one is called as a server computer. A server computer. Now we are getting into terminologies, right? We are getting into terminologies. So client and server, and there's a famous architecture which is called client server architecture, right? Which means in which what happens is one computer makes a request and another computer fulfills the request by sending a response, right? So in this, I want some information. I want some information about my college friends. That means I want to make a request to Facebook. Okay. So what will happen is I will make a request. This is a single one directional arrow, right? I will make a request. This will be called as a request. This is a request. Okay, Facebook will say, okay, you are Akshat Madan, I've got your user ID and you stay in Pune and you want some information about your college friends. It will search in the database, it will fetch all the college friends of Akshat Madan and then makes like a bulk data, right, fun response and gives me back that, hey, Akshat, this is your response. Are you happy? It will not ask me like this, but yeah, this is how this is going to happen. This is my response. I've created a blunder here, so sorry, but yeah, this is called a response. So always a client makes a request and a server returns the response, right? So we have understood, sir, some terminologies. One is client, one is server, one is request and another is response. So in a HTTP protocol, it's all about requests and responses, right? Okay, now let's go deeper into HTTP. Okay, so HTTP has certain components or whenever, so this request and response are nothing but one API call, right? One API call has certain components, I would say, not HTTP. An API call, an HTTP API has certain components, right? So we got to know about request. So now you I give you an example that you as a user will ask for some information, right? So you are making a get call. So we are coming to methods, the request methods, or I would say the HTTP methods or API methods. So currently we are learning the methods of HTTP, right? Or the request methods. So whenever you want some information, you get some information from the server, that is called a HTTP get method, right? So get method is our first method, right? Whenever you send some information to the server, let's come to our example. Let's say you want to post a picture on Facebook. Obviously you will pick some pic from your phone or from your computer and click on send button, write some caption and click on send button. That photo will go to Facebook server, right? Here you are sending some information from your computer to another's computer, to someone else's computer. This is called a post method, right? Where you post some information to the server, right? Next is, let's say I saw that I wrote a wrong spelling in the caption. I want to update the caption of the picture that I just posted. Nothing else. I don't want to update the picture. I don't want to update my location. I don't want to update my status. I just want to update my caption of that picture. That can happen using a put method. You make a put API call to the server. I want to put this information, right? Here you just update, this is update call, right? You just update one certain field, one certain piece of information on in the server of your in your database, right? For your data, you do not update the whole document. Let's say this is a complete post document, right? I'll come to this. What is this curly brackets? I'll come to this, right? So let's say this is your information which is stored on in the Facebook server, right? Let's say for your post it is name, your username basically, then your user ID, right? Then your image URL, the image that you just posted, image URL, then your caption. What is your caption, right? So in the put call, you just update one certain field. Next is your patch. In patch call, you update the whole document, right? You update the whole document. This is a patch call. Another call is delete call. In delete call, you delete this document from the database. You will say that I my bad, I don't like this post anymore, I want to delete this photo from Facebook's database, right? There you make a delete call using HTTP and you delete that post from the server. Then nobody else, none of your friends will see your post in their feed, right? So okay, so this is about HTTP methods. These are called request methods, right? So we have understood about I'll make a list. Whatever we are understanding, I'll make a list, right? We know about client. What is a client? A computer that makes a request, or a browser, or an application. It can be, client can be a mobile application, it can be a web application, desktop application, a watch application, any kind of application. It can be a browser. It is a device, or it is a computer that makes a request on the server. It's called a client. Next is a server that fulfills the request, connects to the database, brings some information back. That is a server. Next is client server architecture. Client server architecture. That's the architecture which has request and response, right? So we learned about request, what is a request, and what is a response. Okay. Next we learned about methods. We learned about get method, we learned about post method, put method, patch method, and delete method. Delete method. Now it's the time to learn about JSON. What exactly is a JSON, right? So to understand JSON, we just understood that here is a request and response, right? So we just got to know that a client makes a request. But don't you think that a computer or your application will be able to understand the request? How will it be able to understand the request? Let's say I say in Hindi, मुझे ये वाले मेरे वाले सारे पोस्ट दे दो, जो भी मैंने पोस्ट किया मुझे वो सारे पोस्ट ला के दे दो. अगर मैं ऐसे पोस्ट कर दूंगा, ऐसे API कॉल कर दूंगा तो कैसे चलेगा, right? So if I just put anything in the request body, in the request, and I will say it in a Spanish language or a Hindi language, then the server won't be able to understand, right? And HTTP is all about it. HTTP is all about set of rules, certain protocols that needs to be followed, right? So in this request, the request body is there, right? There's a request body, right? So we are talking about request body, which holds the information that you want to give to the server so that it can get you the correct response. This is called a request body, and this request body in a certain way only. It cannot be in Hindi, it cannot be in Spanish, it cannot be a chunk of data. It can either be it can be most famous way of passing information between a client and a server is JSON, right? JSON is called JavaScript Object Notation, right? Where we post information such like this, like it's like this, where we have curly brackets, right? Where we have key value pairs. So let's say my data is this. This is my data, and again, this data can have any kind of data structure. It can be an integer, right? Let's say I'm passing my user ID. So I'll say that my field is UID and my field or my value can be an integer. It can be a float. It can be a double. It can be a string, right? Or my body, my JSON body, my request body can also be another data structure like this. So let's say I'm passing a post, right? So post is going to have, it can be another curly bracket. In this we can have a post ID, right? It can again be an research, it can be an image URL, then it can be a caption, right? So that's how information is passed. That's how information is passed in the request body. And we understood about JSON also. So we understood about request body and we understood about JSONs. Similarly, we have response body. So similarly, we have response body. Let's clear this. So we understood about request body, response body. So response body, it's just the opposite. Here the client is not sending some information, the server is sending some information back, right? So that is called a response body, right? And these bodies can be in a certain manner. It can be normal text, it can be a raw body, it can be a file body. But again, if you're sending a file, an image or a video or a PDF, that also gets converted into text. Why text? Because it is our HTTP, hyper text transfer protocol. It can only transfer text, right? So even if you want to pass a file to the server, again that will be converted into bytes. Bytes are data, bytes are the textual data that can be transferred to the server. Similarly opposite, right? If you want to pass a file back to the client, that will be in the format of some it can be a URL of the file or it can be the bytes of the file. You cannot pass objects, right? So that's how things work, right? This is called body. Now you have understood about bodies. Great. Now let's understand about endpoints, the API endpoints, right? So what are API endpoints? Let's understand them. API endpoints. So whenever you make an API call, you make an API call to a URL, right? You have to define the server URL, right? So server URL is nothing but a human readable format of reading a IP address, right? Let's say Instagram server is located in Virginia, USA, right? And that server is again a computer only. That computer will have an IP address. I want to fetch information from that server. That means my browser, my client has to reach there to bring the information back. To reach there, I need the IP address. That IP address can be 127.00. Anything, right? But as a human, we don't understand IP addresses, right? So we can understand strings. So that's why we give a domain name. So let's say HTTPS like this, then Instagram.com/ here comes your route paths, right? This is my whole endpoint, my API endpoint, and this after this comes my route path. Let's say I want to fetch information about a user, then I will say user. Sorry, my handwriting is getting bad day by day. Let me just improve it a bit. Okay, so API endpoint was let's say HTTPS/ Instagram / right? So now I want to fetch an information about a user, let's say my friend. So I will say user/ and I will pass a user ID, let's say XYZ, right? So here two things. One, this is my route path. This is whole an endpoint, right? This is the route location. This is the location of user. In this user, I have all the API endpoints. I have all the route paths using of this user, right? It can be creating a user, it can be getting a user, deleting a user, updating a user, right? Anything, fetching the post of user, anything, right? Anything related to user itself. If I want to get information about a post, that will be Instagram /post/ post ID /post ID, right? Here this will contain all the information about post, creating a post, deleting a post, updating a post, getting a post, right? Everything regarding post. These are your endpoints. Now you know about endpoints also. I'll update my list on this page. So 9th point we understood what API endpoints, or basically your URLs, right? And I think this is good. Then again, we want to pass some information from, we are coming to parameters, right? Query parameters. So again, next thing that I'm teaching you is query parameters. Query parameters are the path parameters, right? Two things are there, right? Query parameters and the path parameters. So I told you that this is my endpoint, right? This is my endpoint, https slash instagram.com/user. Let's say I want to fetch the information about my friend whose user ID is 54310, right? This is the user ID of my friend. Now what I'll do is I want to fetch the information, so I'm making a get call, another thing, right? So again, I'm mixing all the stuff, so be very focused here. I'm making a request. So first thing, I'm a client. Okay, let's start from scratch. I'm a client. Okay, I'm making a request to the server. I'm following a client server architecture. I'm making a request right now, right? I'm making a request right now, right? I'll get a response back. Okay, I'm making a get call. Okay, I want to get some information. So I'm making a get call. Right? We have reached here. I'm making a get call. I'll pass the information. I am not passing. I can pass the information in form of JSON. Right? This is the one way I've taught you. I'll get the information back in the form of JSON. That is for sure. Okay. I can define a request body. I will get a response body. Right? But it's not compulsory that whenever you have to pass information to the server, you always have to pass request body. It's not like that. You can use these query parameters to pass information. Let's say I only want to pass the user ID of whose information I want. So what I can do is I can attach this ID behind this endpoint. So let me bring this endpoint here. Why this is coming? Okay, yes. So what I'm doing is I want to pass this user ID to the server. So what I'll do is I'll attach this behind this path. This is a path parameter. In the server, I would have coded that whatever you get after this user slash in the get call, whatever you get after this slash after the user, consider it as a user ID. This is a path parameter, right? Because you have defined a parameter in the path itself. This is your URL path and you defined a parameter in the path itself. That's how, in this way, I do not have to create a complete request body of JSON and then put my user ID and then pass it. This is the easier way, right? Another way is query parameters. Query parameter. What happens in query parameters? Let's say you want to pass multiple parameters, right? In that way, you cannot do 5430. Then if the user is my connection or not, so connection is true, like that. You cannot pass like that, right? So what I'll do is I will create a path, the query parameter example. So https instagram.com/user/user ID question mark. Okay, so this is a question mark. Question mark user ID is equal to 54310 and connection is true. So what has happened here is I have passed two parameters, right? So in basic programming we have positional parameters and we have named parameters, right? In named parameters you can define the parameter using a key. These are your keys, right? In the query parameters, your parameters have a key. So my user ID has a user ID key. My this value has true boolean value. It has having a key of connection, and these are separated using an AND, right? And they start with question mark. So what will server do is it will see, okay, this is my endpoint. If I find a question mark, that means after the question mark, my query parameters are starting. Query parameters will have a key and a value. They will be separated using an AND operator, right? AND. Okay. So these are your query parameters, and I think we have learned a good amount of HTTP now and understand about status codes, right? Status codes. So status codes, whenever your client, this is my client and this is my server, right? You make a request, get a response back. Both are RR, right? In some cases, server can also fail, right? Server can also fail giving you a response, right? Many things can happen, like many things can go wrong, right? So one thing can be, let's say, or first of all, let's say you make a request and you get a response back, and whatever you wanted, you got it. So that means your response or your API call is successful. So successful API call means 200. So wherever you see 200 status code, that means the API call is successful. Okay. Wherever you see 404, that means it's a bad request. It's a bad request. That means whatever, let's say your body is incorrect, you had to pass a query parameter, but you did not pass a query parameter. You passed a body. That's a 404, bad request. The request is itself bad. You're making a bad request. Again, it's a 500, another is 500, server error. That means you don't need to worry about it. Client doesn't need to worry about it. Nothing has gone wrong on the client side. Everything is wrong on the server side. Server has done something wrong. Let's say the coding in the server, the function in the server has went wrong, or the function did not return a value. That is called a server error. So there are many status codes, right? Now let's see an example. So I have come on a website which is npm website, right? npm/package typeform, right? This is a package website. So it's a page of this type orm package, sorry, right? So if I go to the main website, right? If I go to npmjs.com, this is a normal website, right? Now if I want to search a package, you will see that the endpoint, right at the top, you can see the endpoint will increment, or the certain parameters will be added to the endpoint, right? So let's say I want to search for type orm package, right? Type orm package, I hit enter, right? I click on search, so it's searching, and you can see search, and now you can see question mark query. That means your q is a field, then it's your type orm, this is a value, right? That's how what we learned in query parameters. So using this, and slash search is your endpoint route path, right? My npm.js is my domain name, then this is my whole endpoint, my slash search is my route, my question mark and q is your query parameter, right? Using one API call, or using just one searching on the internet, we found the whole system, right? Now this is a type orm, right? Type orm, okay, I misspelled it. Let's search for type orm, hit on search, and this is my type orm package. I'll click on it, and you can see slash package. The route has changed, the query parameter is gone, and now I can see slash type orm. That means this is my whole endpoint, and type orm is now a path parameter, right? This is my path parameter, right? Or it can be a complete route also, I don't know, but yeah. Now what I'll do is I'll click on write, and I'll click on inspect, right? Go to network tab, and to see those, you can just put a filter of fetch/xhr, and then you will see all the responses, the API calls. So these two API calls are there. So let's say I go to this API call. These are my headers. We have understood about request URL. You can see that slash pulse question mark per page is one. That's your, I don't think you will be able to see it. Yeah, now you will be able to see it, right? The request URL is this pulse per page. This is my query parameter, this is my API method, this is my status code, this is my IP address, this is my referral policy, and all this cross origin we'll see in the cross origin video, right? And this is my headers, this is my payload, this is my preview, this is my response. So this is my response, right? I've got a complete JSON response. This is JSON. These are my key value pairs. You can see many fields have data structures, various data structures, string, doubles, integers, and all, and booleans, and even null, right? And even null, you can see this null. All right, this is my response, right? And in the headers, you can see the request headers. These are request headers. This is my response headers, and that's how what we see, right? This is it. I think this is it. This is the second API call, and in the headers, I can see the headers and the payload. In the preview, in the response, I can see again a JSON response. I think that's it. I think you can just start exploring websites, right? Just click on inspect, go to network, go to fetch/xhr, and you can see all the API calls that are happening, and then you can see the request, response, headers, payload, and everything. I think I can close this video right over here, and yeah, so till the next video, keep coding, keep innovating, and thanks a lot.